Good morning, NFL fans. It's an exciting day. It's week 17 of the NFL season, and let me tell you, last night was something else between the Detroit Lions and the Dallas Cowboys, and the way that game ended. You get 3 shots, yeah, two hands telling the defense.
I'm eligible.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much you've heard, the last, within the last, I guess just this morning. That basically the referee was like, "Oh, he told me that 70 was eligible and not 68." They threw the ball to 68, which makes it a penalty. So it's just an absolute crazy turn of events for
these refs need to learn football, because here's the thing, and I'm happy to be back. I know I'm jumping over you. I haven't been able to podcast or express my feelings about sports for like 8 days. So if a referee ever looks at me, especially a referee in the NFL, and says the guard claimed that he was eligible, that dude has no idea what he's doing and should be fired on the spot.
Yeah.
70 was a guard.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't on the end of the line of scrimmage, so obviously he didn't go up to you and say that he was eligible.
Right. Yeah. None of it makes any sense. I mean, 68, or what was his name? Decker was obviously he was playing. It was an uneven front anyway. So you're looking at center and only one guy on the other side. He's going to bounce out. It should have been a 2-point conversion for the game winner. But it was crazy, and what an ending. And then the other night on Thursday night, you had Joe Flacco out just proving everybody wrong.
Yeah, and falling asleep on the sidelines. I was laughing when I saw that. Just dude, I know you got 5 kids at home. Get some sleep before the game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. You would think that would be the thing, that he'd be rested and ready to go, only playing the last 4 weeks of the season. But question for you really quick, Jimmy, are the Browns legit, or is this just because they're playing a week, kind of like a weaker schedule right now?
Well, they're winning games against even not the weakest teams. I know that sometimes it's close. I feel like I don't know how legitimate it is, but it can work. I mean, they've shown that it can work. They still got a shot at the 1 seed with the way that they've been playing. I was saying similar stuff watching, because we had a sports bar on the cruise, so I was watching the Ohio State game. Missouri is so comfortable keeping it like a 1-score game. They just want you to get uncomfortable and try and make something else happen. I feel like the Browns are similar. I said the same thing about the Broncos when they were on their little winning streak. If you don't care how boring you are, like if you're fine for Joe Flacco throwing the ball out of bounds 15 times, keeping it a 1-score game with your defense and being able to score with 30 seconds left, if you're good with that, you're good with that. And that's what they've been showing. Now, with what the Ravens showed, I'm a little bit nervous. Like, is anybody going to be able to beat them? Because if Lamar can learn how to throw to receivers, that's a little bit of a nightmare for a lot of us.
Yeah. They're starting to really, put things together. In Baltimore is something that we talked about on Talking to Gridiron the other night, is that, even with the little bit of a run game they have, they finally have some receivers to throw the ball to. And it's something that Lamar's needs.
If they had an actual running back, they're on like running back number 5.
Yeah, so 5 or 6.
If they had Dobbins right now, they would definitely. I think they'd probably only lose 2 games. Now they did that before and lost in the divisional round. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what it's all going to mean. And today is actually where I'm most interested, because I think the Dolphins proved a little bit beating the Cowboys. But if you can go to Baltimore and beat Baltimore on the road, especially right now, that is the final stamp I think that McDaniel and Tua need, because they're fun to watch now. I love the behind the scenes stuff and the The speech that he gave after that, uh, them blowing that lead, I thought was awesome. So I think
Yeah.
that they're doing good things. It's just a matter of, is it this year or is it going to be down the road?
Right. Yeah. I mean, obviously Jalen Waddle's not going to play today. He's out along with the other running back. He's
Hill's
out
out
as
too.
well. No, Hill is in. It's a running back that's out. I can't think of his name off the top of my head.
Mostert.
Mostert is out. That's it. Mostert and Waddle are both out today, which is a big. I mean, those are two big key factors for that Miami offense. How much does that play into Miami's going into Baltimore today?
It may make things a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
The thing about good teams and the thing about championship caliber teams is, and we see it all across other sports too. If you can deal with, everybody has to deal with injuries at some point. The
Yeah.
more you can deal with injuries, and if you're able to actually still show somewhat competitive, like look at the Bengals last week against the Steelers. So
Yeah.
many injuries. Everybody knows. But if Jamar and Joe aren't playing, apparently that team is like a high school JV team. And that's the difference between teams that are on the right track. So if Miami goes out today and can show just, I don't necessarily think you have to win, but be in a position to win the game.
Hmm.
If you
Yeah.
can overcome whatever else is going on, then do it. Like, but but I feel like they can take a little bit of pressure off themselves just for today because it's an uphill battle, especially with
Yeah.
what Baltimore showed last week.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Baltimore had that big win in San Francisco last week, and it wasn't even just. I mean, it was all Baltimore from start to finich. It
So
wasn't
Tyler
even.
still is he still standing behind that Purdy for MVP case, or did he finally stop talking about that?
I honestly I haven't talked to Tyler about it. I don't know. I don't think so. I think that game might have pulled Brock Purdy out of the MVP race.
I've never. I'm always the one that gets into fights on our Twitter account. Him and Nico were going at it that night, but I was
Yeah.
on Nico's side. You can't put Purdy on the same level as Manning and Brady right now. You can't.
No. No, he's not even to the same level as some of his teammates like Christian McCaffrey. I mean, that without Christian McCaffrey, the 49ers probably aren't, in the position they're in right now.
Honestly, switch Baker Mayfield and Brock Purdy and tell me who you think would probably be in a more successful situation. Baker's doing a hell of a lot with not much in
He
Tampa.
absolutely. I mean, he's got what, ancient year old Mike Evans, who's still catching 1,000 yards. 1,000 yard seasons, for the last 10 years. And the guy is legit. They got a good running game going on in Tampa Bay now too. What's the chances that they actually end up? I mean, I would imagine they're going to win I don't see how they don't win their division at this point.
I think the division's pretty solid. Um, they, Baker Baker gets a lot of heat, and he's always gotten a lot of heat, and I've always
Yeah.
been on more of an apologist on his side, I guess, because I played with that same level of chippiness on my shoulder, and I didn't always do stuff that would make my mom proud when I was on the field. But
Right.
he's smart. He's really really smart, and that's if Ohio State the other night had a quarterback that can do what Baker can do at the line of scrimmage and can
Mhm.
identify what your defensive scheme is before you actually even call a play,
Yeah.
it's a weapon. It's a game changer. He's able to do that, and I think that, I mean, Tampa would be a team that, depending on how this week ends up and where they fall in the seeds, they would be dangerous in like a second round. They host
Oh
first
yeah.
round, have to go on the road in the second round. I wouldn't be thrilled about that matchup if I was an NFC team.
No, yeah, I think, and I don't know if they're going to be matched up with the. I think if like the season were to end today, they would have to play. I think the Cowboys would have to travel um, to Tampa Bay, which that would be a
Jerry's not
fun
going to
one.
be able to pay the refs then. Jerry ain't going to
So
have that bribe in there.
yeah. Other than that, what's your outlook on some of the possible playoff things going on? You have the AFC South. There's a three-way tie now between Jacksonville, Houston, and Indianapolis. Which one of those is your favorite? I said it the other day on talking to Gern. I think the Texans are going to end up sneaking in and winning this division.
Is Stroud playing today though? Because
Stroud
Stroud's
is
been,
supposed to play, and
I
no
don't
Trevor
know.
Lawrence for Jacksonville.
Yeah, we saw that this morning before we got off the boat. Honestly, since they've dealt with it's the most consistency at the most important position, I would say Indy. I thought Indy
Yeah.
was going to play themselves out of it, but I mean, Gardner Minshew, Similar to what I said about Baker. Like he might not be everything that you want in the starting quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
but he's been there for the longest. He has a lot of
Yeah,
experience, and he hasn't folded at any point this season.
for sure.
They're
Yeah.
always tough. I thought Indy was going to be probably top 5 pick in the draft, and they're actually a hell of a matchup every time you play.
Yeah, no, yeah, the way Indy's playing really great too. Um, I think Houston's got a little bit of I think a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. I like the way they play. You know, they're fighting for, not necessarily fighting for their lives when it comes to like trying to get into the playoffs, but they proved a lot of people wrong at being 8-7 at this point of the season and being in a playoff race.
Yeah, I think if they had Tank Dell today, I'd probably be a little bit
Yeah,
more on their side. But I feel like I've saying D'Amico Ryan's praises on our show, on
yeah,
Talking the Gridiron. I mean, that's a guy that did it the right way and knows how to build a program, and that's what he showed this year. So now next year, when they have all those draft picks that they got for Laramie Tunsil or whoever the
yeah,
trade was, they're actually going to be able to put something together. And you
right.
got C.J. Stroud on 5 more years of a rookie deal, and you got Tank Dell on 3 more years of a rookie deal. So
And Nico Collins, you still got Nico
and
Collins too.
and Nico Collins. And that defense too, like Will Anderson Jr.
Yeah,
I know that he
yeah.
doesn't have the stats to be defensive rookie of the year, but that is a man. I've seen
Mm-hmm.
offensive linemen pull on just about everybody. People are afraid to pull and have to hit Will Anderson Jr. on the other end.
Yeah, he's a beast. He's definitely helped secure and make that defense a defense you don't want to play against
Yeah,
every week.
they're it's an attitude. They're just
Yeah,
attitude, all
yeah,
up and down.
yeah. That's what I like about the Houston Texans, is that little bit of like chip on their shoulder. We're gonna prove you wrong. That that we're here. We're already here. Like you didn't expect us to be here already, but we're here. Deal with
Yeah.
it. So, which is fun. On the other side of things, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about the Falcons a little bit and their struggles with their offense. Um, what needs to change? I mean, they keep going back between quarterbacks between Tyler Heineke and Desmond Ritter. Why they're struggling figuring out their offense.
When you can't make a decision as a head coach, that's the issue that I see. So I like Arthur Smith, but maybe he's just a coordinator. If you don't have
Yeah,
that type of a personality to just make a decision, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, if you're wishy-washy and go back and forth based on what other people tell you as an NFL head coach, you're just not ready to be there. So maybe it's not this time around, maybe it's going to be next time around. But if I was an Atlanta fan, and I know we have Out of Your Falcon Mind on the network, if I were talking
yeah,
to John right now, I'd say Art had a lot of good ideas, and he came in and said a lot of good things. None of
mm,
it is really translated. It's all been
right.
kind of just like, I want this. I want to do this. This is what we're going to try and do. Well, what
Hmm.
steps have you taken to do that? You drafted an unproven quarterback out of a non-Power 5 school who
Yeah,
didn't know how to take an under center snap his entire rookie year. And Arthur Smith's offense is that offense. So he just, I feel like he gave in to the pressure too much. And sometimes that's a good thing. I don't think it's a good thing for him. I think that he went too far the other way. And that's my biggest issue with Atlanta, because they've been talented for years. I remember a few years ago when they had all first round draft picks on their offense and were garbage, god awful. It's
yeah,
just they have a bad attitude. It's the opposite attitude that they have in Houston is what they have in
yeah,
Atlanta. Like, okay,
yeah.
tell Arthur Smith who should play this week. That guy. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's kind of why one of the why I brought them up is because it's like two complete opposites. Even though you're looking at identically almost the same type of team on paper, they have a really good defense. Offensively, they can be hit or miss. Um, but why is there such a difference between them? And I think I agree. I think the quarterback play has a lot to do with it. And even last week Houston wasn't on it as normal, but they also didn't have CJ Stroud. They were down. I think Nico Collins was out too, if I remember correctly. So it's just a lot. There's a lot of similarities between Houston and Atlanta, but they're on different ends of
Yeah.
things right now.
I would ask you this question: would you see Arthur Smith like having the balls to do what Sean Payton did?
To
I
call out
don't.
like to be no. Mm-mm.
Well, to scream at your quarterback on the sidelines and curse him out in front of everybody, but the whole, I mean, you're either going to renegotiate your contract or I'm going to sit
Yeah.
you and play this guy. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I was talking about as an NFL head coach. You have to have the gumption. You have to have the belief in your
Mhm.
knowledge. I think that this was inevitable as ever since Sean Payton took the job, and I put the most of the blame in that situation on George Payton, anyways. But like Sean Payton, if if Arthur Smith had a little bit more Sean Payton in him, I think that he'd probably be a little bit more successful.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the whole situation in Denver between Russell and the Broncos organization is something I think that caught a lot of people off guard. And it would just come out of nowhere within them saying he's being benched to, well, we had to get the NFLPA involved in things and Russell's camp and whatnot, just because you obviously want to build, and they're starting to build something in Denver slowly,
It's
but there's a lot of
that
money in a lot of places that don't need to necessarily be there.
it didn't. It was totally unnecessary.
Yeah.
Even I was arguing with guys on the network the other night when I had some service, but like even if you were to say Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl winning quarterback, been to another Super Bowl, we're gonna bring
Hmm.
him in. You had 2 years left. I
Yeah.
feel like if it's Tom Brady that's doing that, sure, you go ahead and sign him to that extension right away. But you can't tell me that Nathaniel Hackett was going to be able to cover up the warts in Russell Wilson's game like Pete Carroll did. So
Yeah.
give him that year under if he didn't get the new contract last year, if he has that abysmal season under Nathaniel Hackett, now he's having to play for his job. He's not playing for
Yeah.
anything right now. He's more than fine sitting out. He's not going to change his guarantee date, but he's
Mm-mm.
more than fine if they release him because guess what? He gets $230 million no matter what.
Yeah.
And that was
He's gonna get his money.
it was just they jumped the gun when they didn't have to.
Yeah. Yeah. So and it obviously, I mean, he's not going to be in Denver next year. Um, it's pretty obvious at this point that that separation has already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you think is a good landing spot for Russell Wilson? I think Minnesota wouldn't be a bad spot for him.
I think that he would be most successful in Minnesota. Do I think Russ is going to do what makes him most successful? No, I think he's going to do whatever makes him the most money because that seems to be he's more than happy being Ciara's show pony. And I say that as somebody who's lived in Denver over the past 2 years, and wherever the major event is, you see Russ and Ciara. And
Hmm.
it's like Ciara's husband Russ. Ciara's husband Russ. He just wants to be a Kardashian at this point. So let him
Right.
go play in the XFL, be a Kardashian. Here's my thing. I think Robert Tepper's going to say, "Oh, I can cover that contract," because
Yeah.
Robert Tepper thinks that he's the smartest guy in the room and actually has no idea what's going on, burning that franchise down to the ground. I see him landing in Carolina. I think that he should probably be in a place like um, Minnesota, like you said. But there's just too many desperate teams that are going to throw money at him, and he's going to just
Mhm.
sit there and try and collect as much money as possible.
Yeah, it'll be one of those things where waiting out, see who's going to give him the biggest amount, biggest money.
Who's giving me injury guarantees? That's what
Yeah,
I need
yeah.
an injury guarantee.
That blows my mind. That was the first time I've ever heard of an injury guarantee. That's part of a contract.
It's I
Like, hey,
it was bad all
I'm
the
gonna
way
get
around.
injured. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm gonna get injured, but you're still gonna pay me $37 million if I can't play the whole season.
there's a reason why this is not the NBA or MLB. They
Yeah,
can't they don't fully guarantee contracts for injuries because look how many people get injured in the NFL compared to all the other sports.
right.
And it's consistent every single year.
Yeah, yeah. It it's something else. There's so much quarterback drama going into next year. You got Russell Wilson, you got Justin Fields, and what Chicago is going to do, what Atlanta is going to do. Carolina's in a weird spot that they're just not a great franchise right now. And the other one that I saw is, do you keep Deshaun Watson, or do you? Which personally, I think it's ridiculous that this is even a thought that Joe Flacco would become a starting quarterback again in the NFL over Deshaun Watson. You pay the guy tons of money. Joe Flacco's just having a little bit of luck, I think, right now. But do you bench Russ or Deshaun Watson and keep Joe Flacco as your starting quarterback going into next year?
Me personally, no.
Yeah.
I would like to think that Stefanski knows that too. Stefanski
Mm,
has to feel like this is lightning in a bottle, and we just got to ride this until it inevitably does crash. Because as
yeah,
I wouldn't say Flacco was terrible right after he won the Super Bowl, but he definitely declined in his play, and that
yeah,
play hasn't gotten super great afterwards. He just that's the offense he won his Super Bowl with in Baltimore that he's running right now, and he's
mm,
got David Njoku and I know Elijah Moore had the concussion on
yeah.
Thursday, so that's unfortunate for them. But he made Amari Cooper look like Alabama Amari Cooper 2 weeks ago.
Right.
So I feel like this is, like you said, take what you can get right now, but no, that should not be the long term future. Nobody
Yeah.
ever should be looking in the long term saying our 38-year-old starting quarterback is 100%.
Yeah, yeah. It blew my mind when I saw that come across the other day. I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like it doesn't need to happen.
Doug's Browns have been hurt too much. I've been
Yeah,
hurt too many times.
yeah.
They're
The picture I sent out the other day in the chat was, the Browns are good now. What did you have to give up? Ohio State.
dude,
That
that
one
was
that one
bad.
gave me a chuckle. I won't
Yeah,
lie.
that's another coaching situation because how if you're Ohio State and you're Ryan Day, how do you not motivate your team to at least play a full 4 quarters? They
Yeah,
played 3.5 quarters, and as soon as Missouri scored that touchdown, it was Wilt City.
it
I
was
think
done. Yeah,
I think I could have had my sixth graders go out there, and Ohio State would have let them score.
yeah. It was. I haven't seen an Ohio State team be that way before.
Even in games that don't matter, because they played in other
Right.
games that quote don't matter. Um,
Hmm.
but I mean, what are they going to do at quarterback? Ryan Day said they're not going to the transfer portal. You got to see Devin Brown throw 4 passes, and the other quarterback, Keenholtz, solid effort, but uh, they're in a weird spot. And I think if Ryan Day isn't fired early, or at least if next year, if they say they go undefeated again and they do lose to Michigan, he's getting fired before he walks off the field.
Yeah, I don't know how you keep him. I still wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't happen before next season.
Yeah, I think so. It's similar. I mean, like Texas high school football,
Yeah.
you got to produce, and you got one team that you have to beat. You got to be able to have your team ready to go whenever, and he didn't ever do that.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say. I think the big difference is, yeah, you can go out and win, win every week and whatnot. But if you're not going to beat Michigan, you're not gonna,
Yeah,
you're not gonna
congratulations,
look right.
you beat Youngstown State. Congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And everybody blames it on the transfer portal and whatnot, but I don't know if it all has to do with that. So
Yeah. Well, nobody's really transferring to Ohio State right now. So what do you think that means?
that's
I
true.
think that they're
Yeah.
seeing what everybody else is starting to see about Ryan Day. And as much
Hmm.
as much we like to give the young kids grief and the high schoolers and the transfer, they know where they're going. They know where to go for the best situation. And right
Yeah.
now, Ohio State's not seen as one of those best situations, even though they're the only team that's been in a New Year's Six bowl for the last 10 years since they implemented the CFP. But
Right.
they're still just not there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see how that all turns out. Let's go ahead and let's move on to some picks for today. So the first one I want to bring up uh, is your Cincinnati Bengals against the Kansas City Chiefs. How are you feeling with that one? Do you think Cincinnati wins? Do you think Kansas City finally gets things together?
Uh, I I had to put I was listening because we did our picks 2 weeks prior for the Bengals and Steelers game, and I had to eat a lot of crow with that one. I'm pretty sure that I picked Kansas City on our show. I'm gonna go ahead and switch it just because I don't think whatever voodoo Pittsburgh has over the Bengals, the Chiefs don't necessarily have, and the Chiefs have a
It's
lot of
true.
issues right now too. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't blame it all on Taylor, but it's just Ryan Clark said it. I saw Dan Orlovsky talking about it. They have 10 guys doing the right thing, one guy's not doing the right thing, and mistakes are happening. Guy's not catching the
Yeah.
pass. Kadarius Toney gives it to the DB as he's batting it around with his oven mitts that he calls hands. Travis Kelsey's been dropping a lot too. I will say
Yeah.
Travis Kelsey takes a lot more responsibility than anybody else in Kansas City right now. I don't
Hmm.
think that he's the biggest issue. Um, it's just I'm picking the Bengals because I think that they want to get back for that jabroni comment. And Jake Browning, after Pittsburgh, if he doesn't put on a good showing this year, he's just going to be a continual backup in Cincinnati.
Yeah, yeah.
If he can
How
play
soon do you
well and
think they
win,
turn to? Yeah,
go ahead.
I said, how soon do you think they turn to AJ McCarron again this week?
I mean, you put him on maybe a 2 turnover leash. If you fumble, have an interception, I would say let's put McCarron back in there and whatever we have to do, like put Burrow on all the HGH and steroids that you need to so that he doesn't get injured again. And
Yeah,
for that matter, put Chase on the same thing because we can't have those two guys go out. Because like I said, they're the worst team in the NFL if they don't believe that they have the stars to play. It's
yeah.
awful. It shouldn't be that way, but they're a head case, and
It's
I've dealt with that head case for 26 years, and I don't see it happening any less anytime soon.
yeah, they're a different team without Burrow and Chase. That's 100% for sure. Let's jump into another one. It's going to be two bird teams. So I'm looking at the Cardinals and the Eagles. Is this a game for the Eagles that might concern you with Kyler coming back and he's playing pretty well?
I don't know if I'd be concerned about whatever Arizona's going to do to Philadelphia. Philadelphia has shown that this year that they're more than willing to give teams games. They're more than
Yeah,
willing to give stuff away. And if they give stuff away, that actually ironically does help the Cowboys. The Cowboys need to win and they need the Eagles to lose. And Cowboys win the division. They don't have to go on the road for the first round of the playoffs.
true.
Um, I'm surprised. I'm surprised by this, but I shouldn't have been, I guess, because now I can't think of Steichen. Yeah, Steichen and um, their defensive coordinator from last year. Like when you lose those other coaches around your head coach, you start to
Mhm.
realize, oh yeah, Nick Sirianni was a lot of smoke and mirrors. He's just a motivation hype guy. He's
Yeah.
not making the adjustments to get the team in the right spots, and that's actually what I heard about Kansas City too. Like Andy Reid is a lot of the fun-loving guy, and Bieniemy
Hmm.
used to be the guy that held everybody accountable, and now they
Right.
don't have him. I see the same thing for the Eagles. Like you don't have those guys holding the team accountable. You got a guy that's just standing there telling the opponents to go F themselves, even though he's like the guy in the group project that did no work but still gets an A+ and a 4.0. Like, oh yeah, there you go. I'm the
Yeah.
smartest man alive. Like Nick, you didn't do a single thing, but
Right.
I think that they should handle business. I see them still winning the division. I think that they'll beat the Cardinals today, but they've shown this year that they might give it away to somebody.
Yeah. I could see it. I mean, this is a game I think that we might be a little surprised with Arizona getting a win at the same time.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to one final one, and then I don't know you're at the airport and you're getting ready to I guess head
And you
back
hear
home,
all the
right?
screaming kids and
Yeah,
crying.
I
Yeah,
did.
that's noise canceling headphones.
Yeah. So let's look at the Saints and Tampa Bay. We talked about Baker Mayfield already. Tampa Bay is at home versus New Orleans. Do Tampa Bay does Tampa Bay get it done today? I think if they win today, they win their. Do they win their division? I'd imagine if
I think so. I
Atlanta
think they're all.
loses, also.
Yeah, that would be. I mean, the NFC South is just it's awful. Um,
Yeah.
Dennis Allen's another guy that I think should be looking for a job come Black Monday. I don't
Yeah.
think that he's shown anybody enough that he can move that team forward. And people forget, like before Drew Brees and Sean Payton got to New Orleans, that was the joke about they were the Aints.
They were the
The Taints
Aints.
or the
Yeah.
Aints. It's not. They don't have a ton of history there. Um, I see Tampa Bay getting it done because, like I said, I'm a Baker stan, and I want Baker to have success and to prove that he can do it. Um, I don't know if Tampa's going to give him a contract, but if he makes it to the playoffs and say win a playoff game, maybe they give him like a 2-year extension.
Yeah.
That's all I would be looking for if I was in his position.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tampa Bay gets it done. They win their, I think we see Chicago beat Atlanta today, and Tampa Bay win their. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 100% positive Tampa Bay wins today. Atlanta loses. Tampa Bay wins the division. It just
No
makes
slight
sense.
to you guys, John, out of the
Yeah.
Falcon mind. I just don't want to see Atlanta play any more football under Arthur Smith.
No, I think they would somewhat agree to that. I think they're ready for a new start, a fresh start. So, you got any closing thoughts as we finish up today?
No, I'm glad I'm back stateside. I'm a little bit. I enjoyed the vacation, and shout
Yeah.
out to my family. We braved and we survived the 8 day long cruise and everything like that. And it was a lot of fun. But I'm back. I'm glad to be back stateside. I wish I could watch more of the bowl season. I'm about to go do the
Mhm.
tallying of our pick'em show. So check out far end of the bench. We had our
Yeah.
pick'em at the beginning of bowl season. We still have the semifinals and our national championship predictions are in play.
Mhm.
We released 2 episodes while I was on vacation because I'm that good of a radio producer. Um, but we're taking this upcoming week off, and we'll be back ready for NFL playoffs. So we're coming back Super Wild Card Weekend for our show, and I think that's when I'm coming back on Talking the Gridiron as well because
Yeah.
I land too late in Denver tonight to be able to make it on today.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if they're doing one. I don't think Darren has one plan. I don't think. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure January 6th would be the next Talking the Gridiron,
Yep,
as
that's
far as I know.
that'll be the same week that the far end of the bench comes back. So I'm glad to
Yeah.
be back. I enjoyed my vacation, but now I'm back ready to work like a pack mule again.
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds good. Well, have a safe flight back home, and thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for being a part of the show, Jimmy. We appreciate it. Being in the airport and whatnot. Make sure you check out all the awesome content right here at Variety Sports Network, and we'll see you next time.